Hello there, it's yourself. How are you? Okay, welcome to the B Notes 2. It's been a while since I did the first B Notes, so I thought it was about time to, get a second one out. I'm assuming you might have listened to the first one. If you haven't, I would go back and listen just to get an idea of what it is. The B Notes are episodes that are totally out with the normal stories episodes. They're a kind of platform, a place for me to clear up and clear up lots of little bits and pieces and expand sometimes on stories. Yeah, so they don't really function like a normal episode. So they're just something a little bit different. So I'm going to be doing some shout outs. Keep asking me for them, please. Keep asking. Even if you asked me a while ago and I haven't done it yet, I promise I will get there. I will. I'm also going to, in this episode, I'm going to play some of the absolutely mental and wonderful sound clips that you send me, because you send me some crazy things. Also, you will hear the other part of my conversation with Sam Pett, who I spoke to on the last B Notes episode. And there's just a few other little bits and pieces. Are you ready? Okay, let's begin with some shout-outs. Now, because I'm feeling a bit crazy, let's mix it up. I'm going to mix up those shout-outs and some of the incredible audio that you have sent me. Let's start with some of that audio. So, Brandon Scott McFadden was driving when he saw a license plate which spelled out an interesting word, the word Willie, and he sent this, sitting in his car, filming the license plate, and sent me this little piece of audio.
Oh, it's true. Everything I do, is for my Willie.
Erin Biscup. Hope I said that correctly. Hello, Erin. How are you? Jay Sturwalt in North Carolina. Hello, Jay. Jason Becker. Jason, your message was very kind. I'm really glad that you are enjoying the stories. Okay, more audio. Let's have, and I love this, Shouty Baby.
Are them fighting words, Sophia?
Why? You tell them. You tell me how you feel.
Now, imagine it. Welcome to Extraordinary Stories Podcast. Cue the Shouty Baby. And well, to end the intro song, let's have these two gorgeous kids sent in by Mary Duffy. Thanks, Mary.
Hi, how are you? Are you well? Are you good? I am.
Wilson Armitage. Hello, Wilson. How you doing? Paul Maynard Thomas and Vicky Newton. Hello to you. Angela Arno. Hey, Angela. I feel like you asked me a while ago for a shout out and it's taken me time to get there, but, got there in the end. Brianna Allen. Hello, Brianna. Okay, let's end the shout outs and the audio with RuPaul. Yes, RuPaul's feelings on Extraordinary Stories Podcast.
Extra. I'm talking about ESP. Extra. I'm talking about ESP.
Thanks, RuPaul. It's very kind of you. Alright, in this episode, I'm going to talk about 2 types of marriage that I had no idea existed. That was until I started research on the Love series. Now, these stories, they just couldn't fit into that series. So think of them as little B-sides or, I don't know, I think last time I described them as hidden tracks, something like that. Okay, the first is something I've never known to exist. Oscar Wilde said this: "To love one's self is the beginning of a lifelong romance." Thanks, Oscar. Nice words, but there are people who believe that and maybe take it just a little bit too far. Okay, so imagine this, right? You're friends, or you're the family, of a 39-year-old man called Lu Yi, who lives in Zhuhai in China. Right, and before the corrections begin, I googled how to say that city, and I have a piece of paper in front of me with 2 words written on it. One word is zoo, and the other is hi. So I think I've said it right. So, Lu Yi has organised his wedding in the village square. I mean, it's a really quite big affair he's gone for here. There's like 100 guests, there's bridesmaids, there's a maid of honour, and there's a best man. So, okay, it's a busy Saturday in the village square. All of the guests are in place. They're waiting for the wedding to start. But who will be walking down the aisle? Lu Yi and his bride? His partner? The thing is, Lu Yi has never quite said what his sexuality might be, but it was a question people had. They thought, is he gay? Is he not? Who knows? Well, I'm sure that you can guess by now. This is no ordinary wedding, so who is actually going to walk down that aisle with Lu Yi? And before you go thinking the ridiculous, don't think I'm going to say it's a dog or a horse that Lu Yi is marrying. Oh no, it's weirder. Lu Yi, the 39-year-old male, walks down the aisle carrying a life-size cardboard cutout of himself dressed as a woman in a wedding dress. Okay then, sure. It's an actual cardboard cutout of him dressed in a very fetching, I might add, very sexy, red lace wedding dress. Lu had decided to marry a cardboard cutout of himself. So the wedding happens. It actually happens. It goes ahead. He marries the image of himself, and afterwards there's a reception. There's a party, so everything about the wedding is, otherwise traditional, and it's the way that we would have a wedding. So some journalists catch wind of this story, and they turn up to the reception to, well, basically ask, what the fuck? What's going on here? They get to the reception and they start talking to some of the guests, and one of the guests is in his 90s and he says, oh, it's been a lovely wedding, I have to say. Very lavish, lovely food, lots of fun. I mean, of course, the bride is made of cardboard, but, it's been a lovely day. So when Lu Yi talks to people about it, he doesn't really, this is what I think is interesting, he doesn't really offer that many answers, or particularly want to talk about it. He speaks a little to the press, and he says this: marrying myself is a process of deconstructing and reconstructing myself. I want to make use of the wedding to reconsider opposite sex marriage. My behaviour seems ridiculous, but I am a traditional and a conservative man in my heart. So the wedding ceremony remains traditional. He ends with, perhaps I'm just a little narcissistic. Okay, so let's leave Lu Yi over there for a minute. And that's clearly a one-off, strange story. But I'm going to move on to something later that's even stranger. Okay, next on the B Notes, we're going to go to a section that I am going to call Baz, I don't think you meant ... So here's the thing, right? I can't always get it right. And I don't always get it right. I mean, to be honest, I think a skill I didn't know I had is I'm pretty spectacular at getting it wrong and then not noticing I've got it wrong until a couple of people start to point it out. So, these are just a few things that I've been wrong about and I just want to clear them up. Number 1, the porn director who directed John Bobbitt's porn film when his knob had been cut off was in fact Ron Jeremy, not a man called Ron Howard, who was an actor in something called Happy Days. So, sorry about that. Got the Rons mixed up. Okay, number 2 on the Baz, I don't think you meant list is, in the last episode, I ever so confidently described the game Spot the Ball as a game where you guessed which team would score and then how many goals, etc, etc. Turns out that's actually the pools, and that Spot the Ball was a very, very different game. A very different and difficult game that actually was impossible to win. So I sort of brushed it aside as like, oh, it's just something you quickly filled in a couple of numbers and threw it into the bookies. And no, turns out it was actually quite a complicated game. I have to say, Mary Duffy made me laugh on Facebook by saying, by the end of Barry describing Spot the Ball, he was so convincing, I thought I had got it wrong. No, it's just that I was so sure that I was right. Number 3, I said recently that Ireland was in the UK. Obviously, I meant Northern Ireland, so I'm very sorry if I upset anyone who's Irish, and I'm sorry to the geography police. Okay, also on that list, I said it was weird to collect bags of hair, and it turns out that I was wrong. People do it. People collect all sorts of bags of things. So in future, I'll just do a little bit more research before I assume. And I'm going to end this with one thing that I said, and I am right about it. I am right. It is impossible to look sexy in a balaclava. You can keep sending me images. You can keep showing me men with no top on, women in small outfits, wearing balaclavas. It's just not sexy. Alright, let's go to the second part of the chat I had with Sam Pett from the Kimchi Chronicles podcast. Now, Sam and we had chatted, and I was lucky enough to be on one of the episodes of her podcast. And it was around about the time that I had told the Luca Magnotta story. And if you listened to the last B-Notes episode, you would have heard that. Now, we also chatted about something else. Do you remember the Iggy Segalia story I told? He was the cannibal of Paris. Well, Sam reached out to me with some really interesting comments, and I wanted just to chat with her about it. So you'll hear that. It's just a short little conversation. Please forgive and try to bear with the sound. I'm really not great at recording on Skype, and I hadn't done it before, and it does sound like we are having this conversation either underwater or down a tunnel, but please just bear with the sound. Okay, so hi, Sam, how are you?
Hi, I'm great, Baz. Great to see you.
Good. Yeah, good to see you too. Good since we did our episode together on your podcast.
Yeah, that was so much fun.
That was so much fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
For anyone who didn't really hear that, do you want to just talk a little bit about what your podcast is and what you do?
Okay, sure. So I do a sometimes podcast. It's not very regular. We're on a break at the moment because it's too hot. But what I do is it's the Kimchi Chronicles, and it's a take on life and culture in Korea and compared to life and culture in other countries, or sometimes it's just a chat with someone. And then in the second part of it, I do something called Would You Rathers with admin, who's a bit of a bitch.
Quite grueling.
Yeah.
It's grueling. I feel it. And it's tough.
That's always so much fun. So, yeah, if you do have time and you want to have a look for it, then please do.
Yeah, and I highly recommend listening to it. It's absolutely brilliant.
That's so sweet of you to say. Thank you.
So we started our conversations, well, a long time ago, just Facebook chat back and forth.
Yeah.
And recently I put up an episode about Issei Sagawa. I don't think I'm probably saying his name correctly, but that's my best stab at it.
That'll do.
That'll do. He was known as the Paris Cannibal, so just quickly, if you missed that episode or you need reminding, he was the man who harboured a deep obsession with the idea of eating people from a really young age, and then he murdered a female classmate of his, dismembered her body, and ate some of her body, and then threw the remains away. And through some bizarre loophole in the system, he was free to return to Japan
and became, in inverted commas, a celebrity, or at least notorious. So then, Sam, you had something really interesting to say on Facebook about that.
Yeah.
Caught my attention. You think, okay, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I seem to remember I said that it wouldn't have happened. The celebrity, as you, in like speech marks, celebrity thing would never have happened, I don't think, in any other country. And because he was doing, if I remember rightly, he was doing cannibal porn. He was going on chat shows and things. And I think it's because, and I don't want to come across as racist. I really, really don't. That's not my intention at all.
No.
Just, I've been to Japan 4 or 5 times, I think, and it's a really interesting place because the people have 2 faces. The public face, which is very kind and very friendly and helpful and open, and then there's the darker side of Japan, where you get all the weird manga and all the sex shops, and I even saw a vending machine where you could buy used panties just on the streets. Yeah.
I mean, you've got to put the question, who's buying used panties?
Why would you do it on the street?
I think you can buy them on eBay.
Right. Anonymously. Yeah, that's... Yeah. I don't think it's just Japan either. I think there is a side of that in Korea too.
Okay.
Well, they come across as being very Confucianist and Buddhist. There are still... I think I drive past 3 sex shops on my way to school.
Okay, right.
Although people aren't supposed to have sex until they get married, so I don't know what's going on there. Lots of
what's happening there?
what we call love motels, where couples sneak away. And there's a mental... I've never actually ended up in one, but some friends have, and they're looking for somewhere cheap to stay. Like mirrored ceilings, glass doors on the bathrooms, and little sex packs of condoms and dildos to use.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by the idea of the love motels. I think I think the idea of them is insane.
Yeah, why not? Because the young couples, they can't be open with their sexual relationship until they're married.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah, somewhere for them to go.
Well, indeed, yeah. It's that. I know you're saying there that you don't want it to sound like it's racist at all, but so I was doing some research into what is public face, what is private face, and it just kept, every search just kept leading me back to Japan all the time. And actually there was I found some really nice writings by Japanese people who don't live there anymore, talking and reflecting on actually what a huge problem it is for young people now in Japan. We're really struggling with this idea of why do we have to have these 2 faces? Not quite sure, why I have to feel like I'm torn between these 2 things.
Okay.
And I thought it's just really interesting that it's coming from people who've obviously grown up through it and then had to get away and just somewhere else.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Some of the other stuff I found was to do with like wealth. Like a lot of people were saying, it's to do with the fact that, we see all these really wealthy images, these flashy images of Japan, but there's actually this massive hidden poverty.
Yes.
And that's where those 2 things could possibly, exist and cause problems.
Yeah. I would say that would be true for Korea as well. You've got 4 or 5 companies that run the country and are super rich.
Right.
And then you've got people living in just like the oldest houses. Okay. I think partly that comes from the Korean War. After the war, I can't remember the president's name now. It escapes me. The father of the previous president, who's now been put in prison for embezzling money. People loved him or hated him. he brought the country from nothing into what it is now, with all the companies and the amazing internet and all the electronics and stuff. But he was also a kind of dictator who had people killed if they weren't saying the right things. Korea and Japan have a very, very close history.
Yeah.
A shared history, and there's not much love lost between them still.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But they are surprisingly similar, although Koreans would never admit that.
There's a lot of similarities.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that is the idea. If you're living under if you're not saying the right thing, that fear, if that's in you, if that's what your culture is, then
going
then
to
you
prison.
would have.
You can't openly say something bad against the government or have an opinion that's not the right opinion, or you're going to end up in prison.
Okay.
So, I guess that would keep you. It's going to limit your interactions with people.
Oh, exactly, or what you can say or what you can't say.
Yeah.
I don't know how any of that actually links to this weird cannibal becoming a celebrity. That bit of it I still don't really understand, but I don't know. I don't know if there's an answer to that or not.
Maybe with the wealth part of it. Like, he got away with it. And it makes me so mad that he did. But,
Oh.
Yeah, maybe it's part of that, like, look what he did. And
he
got away with it. There'll be like a dark fascination with what he did.
I think the fact he ended up writing, like, food columns and
so
food
gross.
channels. Like, what? What the fuck? What are you talking about?
Right. So just take the lips of one female with a pinch of salt and some black pepper.
Oh, God. So weird.
Yeah.
So weird. Yeah, I don't understand it.
No.
Okay.
Some things I don't think we are ever going to understand as decent, normal human beings.
Yeah, you're right.
It's just
You are right. No, we're not.
no, that doesn't matter how much we read, how many psychologist reports we listen to.
Yes.
It's just going to be I get it, but I don't get it. If that makes sense.
Exactly. I know it's exactly how I feel. I'm like, I sort of get it, but I don't really at the same time. So, so it's just always going to be confusing.
Right.
All right, back to another story about weddings that just didn't make it into the love episodes. Right, I'm going to ask you to imagine once more that you are at a wedding. Both sides of the family are gathered, bride and groom. Okay, we're in a church. We're all set up. We're all dressed up to the nines. And once more, we're in China. I'm not sure why so much of this episode seems to be focused on China and Japan. I'm not really sure why that's happened. Just is the way it is. Okay. So we're ready. This wedding is going to happen. Now we have a bride and we have a groom. But here's the thing. Only one of them is alive. I'm talking about ghost weddings. Now, a ghost wedding isn't like when, two ghosts get married, like something from a Tim Burton film. What I'm talking about is an ancient Chinese tradition of marrying someone who isn't alive. The corpse is brought into the church and the wedding commences, except only one of the two people is actually alive. And I'm not joking, this still continues. It still happens now. So, where does it come from? Well, let me tell you. It's an ancient Chinese custom that's been going on for about 3,000 years. The belief is that it ensures that the unmarried dead are not alone in the afterlife. Now, I joked, right? And I said it's not when two ghosts get married, but that's actually where it started. So, what would happen was, if two people were dead and they had died without being married, their families would get together and arrange a ceremony so that neither of those dead people would wander the afterlife on their own. So it evolved like things always do. It didn't have to then be two dead bodies getting married. A family who, right, say they might feel that their loved one who died unmarried was going to, wander the afterlife alone forever. What they do is they would marry them to someone who was alive. I'm sorry, but I would be fucking livid if I died unmarried and my family were like, oh well, we're going to marry off your dead body to someone that we think would suit you. No, fuck off. What if my dead body ends up being married to some like manky weirdo? I'd be like, no thanks. I'd be coming back to hunt you. I mean, at least marry me off to like a male model or a porn star, or just not some like horrible person. No, a joke, of course, but there is a serious side to it, and that serious side actually comes through money. In ghost weddings in China, the dead bride goes for a high price. If a Chinese family have lost their daughter and she's not married, she can be sold to the highest bidder. I mean, it sounds odd, I know, but there's often a dowry, there can be jewellery exchanged, and it goes back a little bit to what I was talking about earlier with Sam. It's the public face thing. It's the not wanting your child or your relative to be dead and unmarried. If you have a son who is an adult and it looks like, he has got no prospects of marrying, then families will buy him a dead bride because it saves face. At least their son is married. Okay, his wife's dead. There most certainly won't be a first dance at their wedding. But, he's married. Although I would love to see the first dance at a ghost wedding. But yeah, it is a serious business, and this is where it just turns horrible. In 2016, a Chinese female in her 30s living in rural China was complaining to friends that she was never going to marry. She was never going to meet her ideal man. Now, a local man in his 50s who lived in that area overheard her complaining, and he offered her a solution. He said, I'll be your matchmaker. I'll be your Cupid, if you will. He said, okay, I'm going to introduce you to some eligible men, and one of them will become your husband. And she was delighted by this. So, they arranged a date for her to meet her prospective new love of her life. So the matchmaker, Cupid, he says, look, I've found the perfect man for you. He's absolutely perfect, and he's looking for a bride. So she gets herself all ready. When she arrives to go to the date, the matchmaker says, if you just come into my house just for a second, and then I've just got a couple of wee things to do, and then we'll get on the road, and I'll take you to the restaurant where you're going to meet him. When she steps into the house, the matchmaker injects her in the neck with a lethal poison, and she dies. This matchmaker, this fucking Cupid, is looking to sell her dead body and make her a ghost bride. Now, as ludicrous as this all sounds, it is happening, and the question is, who's buying these bodies? Well, there's lots and lots of these matchmaker types, and what they're doing is they're preying upon families who've lost their sons at a young age. Now, this particular dead woman was to be taken to a family who'd lost their son, age 21, in a car crash, and the family desperately wanted his corpse to be married to another corpse. So he's making money out of this, which is just fucking awful. But however, before the matchmaker could deliver the body, he was stopped by police, and her dead body was found in the trunk of the car. When they looked a bit further into him, they realised that he was working as part of a gang who worked in the business of killing young women to sell off as ghost brides. He'd already killed 3 women, and he had received the equivalent of about $40,000 for the bodies. I'm glad to say, all of the men involved went to prison. And that was in 2016 in China. So, not to end it on such a sombre note, I did read an interview with one guy called Yi who lives in China, and he's 36. And last year he had a wedding ceremony for him and his ghost bride. And he couldn't be happier. He says this: "I was burned badly in a fire and my face has never healed. Although I work hard and I'm a good guy, even if I do say so myself, I knew with the burns I would never attract a wife. But I want to be married. I do not want to go to my grave an old man and wander the afterlife alone. And so I married a beautiful young woman who's waiting for me when I get to my death. My life is a happy place now because I can say I am married." Okay, and that ends that section. Alright, there's been a few requests for me to play the full recording of Lorraine Ledwell reading the beginning of Under Milk Wood, which I used in one of the last episodes. Lorraine has just such a lovely speaking voice, and well, I asked her to do this for 2 reasons. I said to her, it's Under Milk Wood, and you know, it's one of the best texts that's ever been written, and it's written about Wales. Now, that's where Lorraine lives. She isn't Welsh, as we know from her accent, but the combination of the fact that she has such a lovely English accent and was talking about Wales was exactly what I wanted for that, because, oh my god, I went through some recordings that I could find of Under Milk Wood online. Oh my god, they were the bloody stiffest things I've ever heard in my life. Like, from the 1940s, that sort of like, "It was a black, dark night, and it sounds like this." So I thought, oh, fuck that. Right, I didn't want that. I wanted like a really real voice reading it. Okay, so here's the full version. It's a couple of minutes long of Lorraine reading Under Milk Wood.
Begin at the beginning. It is spring, moonless night in the small town, starless and Bible black. The cobble streets silent, and the hunched quarters and Rabbit's Wood limping invisible down to the slow, black, crow black, fishing boat bobbing sea. The houses are blind as moles, though moles see fine tonight in the snouting velvet dingles, or blind as Captain Cat there in the muffled middle by the pump and the town clock. The shops in mourning, the welfare hall in widow's weeds, and all of the people of the lulled and dumbfound town are sleeping now. Hush, the babies are sleeping. The farmers, the fishers, the tradesmen and pensioners, cobbler, schoolteacher, postman and publican, the undertaker and the fancy woman, drunkard, dressmaker, preacher, policeman, the webfoot cocklewomen and the tidy wives. Young girls lie bedded, soft, or glide in their dreams with rings and trousseau, bridesmaided by glowworms down the aisles of the organ-playing wood. The boys are dreaming wicked of the bucking ranches of the night and the Jolly Rogered sea, and the anthracite statues of the horses sleep in the fields, and the cows in the byres, and the dog in the wet-nosed yards, and the cats nap in the slant corners, or lope, sly, streaking and needling, on one cloud of the roofs. You can hear the dew falling and the hushed town breathing. Only your eyes are unclosed to see the black and folded town, fast and slow, asleep.
Okay, right, so here we go. Final shout-outs, final audio. Alright, I think we need to hear Brandon again. Don't you?
No, it's true. Everything I do, aye, is for my Willie.
Hello to Bex Kem. I'm glad that you've joined the Facebook group and that you're enjoying it so much. Nice to see you there. Findlay Tulloch. Hello, Finlay. Sorry, I didn't mean that to sound so creepy. I don't know why it sounded like that. Let's have Scott Stringer doing a Scottish accent because it's wonderful.
But it's no ordinary story. It's an extraordinary story.
Rebecca Tubridy. Hello, Rebecca. How are you? Right, here we go. Bridget Schwaliza Cruz. Wow, what an exotic name. I liked Bridget's approach. Simple hashtag. Shout out, please. Love that. Let's have Kristen, who's in the Facebook group, do her Scottish sayings, which I sent her, and I just love hearing these.
What does this even mean? Away and bile your hide? Heed? What is it?
And Scarlett Dawson Musgrave. Hello, Scarlett. And finally, Philip Nicol. Hello, Philip. Thanks for getting in touch. And I'm glad that you're enjoying the podcast. Nice to hear from you. Thanks for your messages. My, you really don't give me an easy time with names, but I love them all. Okay, let's have a bit more Kirsten. And then let's hear how Scott Stringer's cat feels about her Scottish impressions.
I write ye a ball bag. What does that mean? Did I just insult someone?
Okay, for the next B-Notes, send me your audio, your shout-outs, your Baz I don't think you meant, and whatever else you want. Okay, until the next episode, which is coming very soon, let's just have RuPaul to take us out. Okay? Bye.
Extra. I'm talking about ESP.
Why can I not say the word consciously? Psychiat. Ed writes, I wanted to believe him. So I did. And I went on through the rest of my time there without consciously... Buster is really shit. Fucking hell, come on. Psychiat. Barry, sort it fucking out. As Ed is writing this, he is in... No. It's a mess, this episode. The Merritt family... The Merritt family... The... Psychiat. Psychiat. Psychiat.